In the year 2147, humanity reached a milestone that many thought would mark the beginning of a new era. For decades, Earth had been scanning the stars, searching for signs of intelligent life. When signals from an alien species were finally detected, excitement swept across the globe. The aliens called themselves the Krylos, and they seemed peaceful at first. Their messages spoke of cooperation, knowledge sharing, and unity among species. Humanity, eager to prove it could coexist with others in the universe, sent its best representatives to establish contact. Daniel Carter, a brilliant scientist known for his work in xenobiology, was chosen to lead the scientific team. Alongside him was Laura Bennett, a skilled diplomat who had spent years negotiating treaties between Earth's nations. Together, they boarded the Eclipse Asterisk, a state-of-the-art spacecraft designed for long-distance travel. The journey to meet the Krylos took months, but when they arrived, the aliens greeted them warmly. They invited the humans to their home planet, offering tours of their cities and access to their advanced technology. At first, everything seemed perfect. The Krylos shared incredible innovations: energy sources that could power entire continents, medical treatments that cured diseases once thought incurable, and engineering techniques far beyond anything humanity had developed. In return, Earth offered cultural exchanges, art, music, and stories of its history. It felt like the start of something beautiful, a partnership that would elevate both species. But beneath the surface, cracks began to form. Some members of the human delegation noticed oddities about the Krylos. They rarely discussed their own past or explained how they achieved such technological prowess. Certain questions were brushed aside with vague answers, and some areas of their cities were strictly off-limits. Daniel voiced his concerns to Laura, but she dismissed them, insisting that mistrust would only harm the relationship. "We're here to build bridges," she said firmly, "not tear them down." Then came the day everything changed. Without warning, the Krylos turned on their human guests. What started as a routine meeting ended in chaos as armed guards stormed the conference hall. Daniel and Laura barely escaped with their lives, fleeing back to the Eclipse Asterisk. By the time they reached Earth, the news was already spreading. The Krylos had launched a full-scale attack on humanity's colonies. Mars fell first, its settlements obliterated by orbital bombardments. Jupiter's moons followed, their defenses overwhelmed by the sheer size of the Krylos fleet. Millions died in those early days. Entire families were wiped out, and Earth's governments scrambled to respond. Among the survivors was Ethan Cole, a former space pilot who had retired after losing his wife and daughter in a tragic accident years earlier. Now living alone in a small town, Ethan watched helplessly as reports flooded in about the destruction. His heart sank when he learned that one of the destroyed colonies was where his younger brother lived. Rage consumed him, not just for the loss of his family, but for the betrayal of trust. "How could we have been so blind?" he muttered to himself one night, staring at the stars through his window. The Krylos had played humanity like fools, pretending to be allies while plotting their downfall. Ethan clenched his fists, vowing never to forgive them. But anger wasn't enough. He wanted justice. As weeks passed, whispers of resistance began to spread. A secret military project named Operation Retribution was formed, tasked with building a fleet capable of striking back at the Krylos. Ethan knew he couldn't sit idly by while others fought. He dusted off his old uniform, packed what little belongings he had, and set out to join the cause. Little did he know, this decision would thrust him into the center of humanity's greatest fight for survival. The aftermath of the Krylos attack left Earth in a state of despair. Cities once bustling with life were now eerily quiet, their streets filled with makeshift memorials for the lost. Refugees from Mars and the moons of Jupiter crowded into shelters, their faces etched with grief and fear. The scars of betrayal ran deep, not just in the physical destruction, but in the shattered trust humanity had placed in the alien species. People questioned how they could have been so naive, how they could have believed peace was possible with beings who viewed them as nothing more than prey. Amid the chaos, Ethan Cole found himself standing outside a military recruitment center. He hesitated for a moment, his mind replaying the faces of those he had lost: his wife, his daughter, his brother. Each memory fueled the fire burning within him. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the door and stepped inside. The room was crowded with others like him, men and women determined to fight back against the Krylos. A stern-looking officer sat at a desk, asking questions and handing out forms. When it was Ethan's turn, the officer glanced up, his eyes scanning Ethan's worn face. "You sure about this?" the officer asked gruffly. "We're not looking for glory seekers." "I'm not here for glory," Ethan replied, his voice steady. "I'm here because someone has to make them pay." The officer nodded, seemingly satisfied with the answer, and handed Ethan a stack of papers. After signing up, Ethan was directed to a briefing room where he learned about Operation Retribution. The project was shrouded in secrecy, its existence known only to a select few. General Rachel Monroe, a no-nonsense leader with years of combat experience, stood at the front of the room addressing the recruits. Her sharp gaze swept over the group as she spoke. "Our enemies think we're weak," she said, her voice firm and unwavering. "They think we'll roll over and die. But they underestimated us. We're going to build a fleet unlike anything they've ever seen, and we're going to hit them where it hurts." Ethan listened intently as General Monroe outlined the plan. The fleet would consist of advanced warships, designed by a team of engineers led by Maya Thompson, a young but brilliant inventor who had already made a name for herself in aerospace technology. Alongside her was Lucas Grant, a strategist known for his ability to outthink even the most cunning opponents. Together, they were working on experimental fusion-powered engines and cutting-edge weaponry that could rival the Krylos arsenal. The centerpiece of the fleet was the Asterisk Stellar Blade Asterisk, a massive flagship equipped with enough firepower to level entire cities. Its construction was underway in a hidden orbital shipyard, far from prying eyes. However, progress was slow. Resources were scarce, and many of the materials needed for the ships had been destroyed in the initial attacks. Despite these challenges, the team refused to give up. They worked around the clock, driven by the knowledge that failure meant the end of humanity. As days turned into weeks, Ethan trained alongside other recruits chosen for the mission. Among them was Sarah Dawson, a skilled navigator who could plot courses through even the most treacherous parts of space. Kevin Hayes, a soft-spoken communications officer, proved invaluable in deciphering alien signals. And then there was Alex Rivera, a combat specialist whose quick reflexes and sharp instincts made him a natural leader. Though they came from different backgrounds, they shared a common goal: revenge. Tensions often flared during training sessions. Some recruits struggled with the weight of what lay ahead, while others clashed over differing opinions on strategy. Ethan found himself stepping in more than once to mediate disputes, his calm demeanor earning him respect among his peers. Slowly but surely, the group began to gel, forming bonds forged in the heat of adversity. One evening, as Ethan sat alone in the barracks, he stared at a photograph of his family. His heart ached, but he also felt a flicker of hope. For the first time since the attack, he believed humanity had a chance, not just to survive, but to rise again. As he tucked the photo back into his pocket, he whispered a silent promise to those he had lost. "We'll make them pay," he said softly. "For all of us." The construction of the fleet was no easy task. The orbital shipyard buzzed with activity day and night, a maze of scaffolding, welding torches, and floating crates of materials. Engineers scurried about, their faces illuminated by the glow of computer screens and the occasional spark from machinery. At the heart of it all was Mia Thompson, the lead engineer, whose sharp mind and relentless determination kept the project moving forward. She rarely slept, often seen pacing between workstations, barking orders or scribbling notes on digital tablets. Mia's team faced countless challenges. Many of the components needed for the ships were experimental, requiring trial and error to perfect. The fusion-powered engines, in particular, proved difficult to stabilize. Early tests resulted in small explosions that sent engineers scrambling for cover. But Maya refused to give up. "If we don't get this right," she told her team one evening, "we might as well hand Earth over to the Krylos on a silver platter." Lucas Grant, the strategist, worked closely with Mia to ensure the ships were not only powerful, but also practical. He spent hours poring over star charts and battle simulations, imagining every possible scenario they might face. His office was cluttered with holographic displays showing potential attack patterns and defensive formations. Lucas knew that raw power wasn't enough. They needed a plan, a way to outsmart an enemy that had already proven itself ruthless and cunning. Meanwhile, Ethan Cole found himself drawn into the process. Though his role was primarily as a pilot, he often visited the shipyard to check on progress. He admired Mia's dedication and Lucas's foresight, but what struck him most was the unity among the workers. Despite the long hours and constant pressure, everyone shared a sense of purpose. They weren't just building ships, they were building hope. The centerpiece of the fleet, the Stellar Blade Asterisk, took shape slowly but surely. Its sleek design was both intimidating and awe-inspiring, with reinforced hulls and rows of missile launchers lining its sides. The bridge was a marvel of technology, featuring consoles that could track multiple targets simultaneously and display real-time data from across the galaxy. Ethan stood inside the unfinished vessel one day, running his hand along the cold metal walls. It felt solid, sturdy, like something that could withstand anything the Krylos threw at them. But the road ahead was far from smooth. Supplies were stretched thin, and delays became frequent. One afternoon, a shipment of critical alloys failed to arrive, forcing Mia to halt work on several key systems. Tempers flared as frustration mounted. Even General Rachel Monroe, usually unshakable, seemed weighed down by the setbacks. During a meeting with the leadership team, she slammed her fist on the table. "We don't have time for this," she snapped. "Every day we waste is another day the Krylos grow stronger." Ethan stepped in, his calm voice cutting through the tension. "We'll figure it out," he said. "We always do." His words seemed to steady the group, reminding them why they were there. Slowly, solutions began to emerge. Salvage teams scoured destroyed colonies for usable materials, while others worked to streamline production processes. As months passed, the fleet started coming together. Smaller escort ships joined the Stellar Blade Asterisk, each designed for specific roles: scouting, defense, or heavy assault. The crew trained tirelessly, learning how to operate the new technology and coordinate as a unit. Sarah Dawson spent hours plotting navigation routes, ensuring they could reach Proxima Centauri quickly and safely. Kevin Hayes ran drills to test communication systems, making sure messages could be relayed without delay. Alex Rivera led combat exercises, pushing the team to react faster and think smarter. One evening, as Ethan watched the nearly completed fleet from a nearby observation deck, he felt a surge of pride. These ships represented humanity's resilience, its refusal to bow to despair. But he also felt the weight of responsibility. Thousands of lives depended on their success. Failure wasn't an option. "They underestimated us," Ethan muttered under his breath, staring at the glowing outlines of the vessels against the blackness of space. "They thought we'd just roll over. But we're not done yet." Behind him, General Monroe approached, her arms crossed. "You believe in this mission, don't you?" she asked. "With everything I've got," Ethan replied without hesitation. Monroe nodded, a faint smile crossing her lips. "Good, because when we launch, we're taking the fight to them. And we're not coming back until we've won." Ethan turned to look at her, his resolve hardening. For the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to believe, not just in revenge, but in victory. Training the crew of the Stellar Blade Asterisk was as challenging as building the ship itself. Every member of the team had been handpicked for their skills, but working together as a unit required more than individual talent. It demanded trust, discipline, and an unshakable bond. Ethan Cole knew this better than anyone. As the designated leader of the flagship's crew, he took it upon himself to ensure they were ready for whatever lay ahead. The first few weeks of training were rough. The group came from different backgrounds, each with their own way of doing things. Sarah Dawson, the navigator, preferred precision and quiet focus, while Alex Rivera, the combat specialist, thrived on instinct and quick decisions. Their approaches clashed often, leading to heated arguments during drills. Kevin Hayes, the communications officer, tried to mediate, but even his calm demeanor couldn't always diffuse the tension. Ethan stepped in whenever things got out of hand. He didn't raise his voice or bark orders like some military leaders might have done. Instead, he listened, observed, and spoke only when necessary. When Sarah and Alex argued over how to handle a simulated ambush, Ethan simply said, "We're not here to fight each other. We're here to fight the Krylos. If we can't work together now, we'll fail before we even leave Earth." His words struck a chord. Slowly, the crew began to find common ground. They learned to appreciate each other's strengths: Sarah's sharp eye for detail, Alex's ability to think on his feet, and Kevin's knack for keeping lines of communication open. Ethan made sure everyone understood their role in the mission, emphasizing that no single person was more important than the team. Physical training was grueling. The crew spent hours in zero-gravity simulations, practicing maneuvers that would be crucial during space battles. Alex led combat exercises, teaching the others how to use handheld plasma rifles and defend themselves in close quarters. Even Ethan, who had years of piloting experience, found himself sweating through intense obstacle courses designed to test endurance and reflexes. Mental preparation was just as important. Lucas Grant, the strategist, conducted regular briefings to review battle plans and discuss potential threats. He used holographic projections to simulate Krylos attack patterns, forcing the crew to think critically and adapt quickly. These sessions weren't easy. Mistakes were made, and tempers flared when things went wrong. But Lucas never let them give up. In battle, hesitation gets you killed, he reminded them. You need to know what to do without thinking twice. As the weeks turned into months, the crew grew closer. Meals became opportunities to share stories and laughter, easing the weight of their shared burden. Ethan learned about Sarah's love for old Earth novels, Kevin's passion for music, and Alex's dream of opening a farm once the war was over. These small moments helped humanize each other, turning teammates into friends. One evening, after a particularly tough day of training, Ethan gathered the crew in the mess hall. He stood at the front of the room, holding a cup of coffee as he addressed them. "I know this isn't easy," he began, his voice steady but warm. "We've all lost people, family, friends, colleagues. I carry that pain every day, just like you. But we can't let it consume us. What we're doing here, it's bigger than revenge. It's about protecting those who are still alive. It's about showing the Krylos that humanity doesn't back down." The room fell silent as his words sank in. For a moment, there was nothing but the hum of the shipyard outside. Then, one by one, the crew nodded in agreement. They understood what was at stake, and they were ready to face it together. General Rachel Monroe visited the next day to inspect their progress. She watched quietly as the crew ran through a final simulation, her expression unreadable. When it ended, she approached Ethan. "They're ready," she said simply. "You've done well." Ethan looked at his team, their faces flushed with exhaustion but glowing with determination. For the first time since the Krylos attacked, he felt a flicker of hope. They weren't just a crew anymore. They were a family, and families fought hardest for each other. The day of departure finally arrived, and the atmosphere on Earth was electric. Thousands of people gathered near the launch site, their eyes fixed on the fleet of ships now suspended in orbit. Screens across the globe broadcasted live footage of the Asterisk, Stellar Blade Asterisk, and its escorts, their sleek designs gleaming under the sunlight. For many, these vessels represented humanity's last hope, a defiant stand against an enemy that had brought them to their knees. Ethan Cole stood on the bridge of the Stellar Blade *, his hands resting lightly on the control panel as he looked out at the vastness of space. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders, but he also felt a strange sense of calm. This was what he had trained for, what the entire crew had worked toward. Behind him, Sarah Dawson adjusted the navigation systems one final time, while Kevin Hayes tested the communication array. Alex Rivera paced back and forth, checking weapon readiness with a focused intensity. General Rachel Monroe's voice crackled over the intercom, breaking the silence. "This is it," she said, her tone firm but tinged with emotion. "You've trained hard, and you've prepared well. Remember why you're here, to protect humanity and show the Krylos that we will not be broken." Her words echoed through the ship, reaching every corner of the fleet. A chorus of acknowledgments followed, voices steady and resolute. As the countdown began, Ethan turned to face his crew. "We've done everything we can to get ready," he said, his voice carrying both confidence and reassurance. "Now it's time to trust each other and ourselves." His gaze lingered on each of them briefly before settling on Sarah, who gave him a small nod. She understood the unspoken message. They were ready. The engines roared to life, vibrations rippling through the hull as the ships prepared to leave orbit. On Earth, the crowd erupted into cheers, tears streaming down faces as they watched the fleet ascend higher and higher. Children waved flags, soldiers saluted, and families held each other tightly, praying for the safe return of their loved ones. Ethan caught glimpses of the scene on the monitors, his chest tightening with emotion. These were the people counting on him, the ones he was fighting for. Once clear of Earth's atmosphere, the fleet formed up, the smaller escort ships flanking the Stellar Blade *. The journey to Proxima Centauri would take 6 months, during which the crew would need to maintain peak performance. Ethan called a meeting in the briefing room to outline the plan. "We'll rotate shifts to keep everyone sharp," he explained. "Sarah will map out our course, making sure we stay off the Krylos radar as much as possible. Kevin, you'll monitor all channels for any activity. And Alex, I want regular combat drills so we don't lose our edge." Over the next few days, the crew settled into a routine. Meals were shared in the mess hall, where conversations ranged from light-hearted jokes to serious discussions about strategy. During downtime, Ethan often found himself gazing out at the stars, thinking about the mission ahead. He replayed General Monroe's words in his mind. Show the Krylos that we will not be broken. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about proving humanity's strength and resilience. One evening, Sarah joined him in the observation deck. "Do you ever wonder what's waiting for us out there?" she asked softly, her eyes reflecting the distant glow of a passing star. "All the time," Ethan admitted. "But wondering won't change anything. We have to focus on what we can control." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "Still, it's hard not to think about it. What if we're walking into a trap?" "We are," Ethan replied bluntly. "But we knew that from the start. The Krylos think we're weak, that we'll roll over and die. That's their mistake, and ours to exploit." His words seemed to reassure her, and they stood together in comfortable silence for a while longer. As the hours passed, the hum of the ship became a constant companion, a reminder of the long road ahead. Yet despite the uncertainty, there was a quiet determination among the crew. They had left Earth behind, carrying with them the hopes of billions. Failure was unthinkable. 6 months stretched before them like an endless void, but Ethan refused to dwell on the distance. Instead, he focused on the task at hand, preparing his team, honing their skills, and keeping morale high. Every drill, every simulation, brought them closer to their goal. And as the Stellar Blade sailed deeper into the unknown, Ethan allowed himself a moment of quiet resolve. "No matter what happens," he whispered to himself, staring at the infinite expanse of stars, "we're coming back stronger." The journey to Proxima Centauri was long and uneventful at first. Days turned into weeks, and the vast emptiness of space began to feel monotonous. The crew of the Stellar Blade stuck to their routines, rotating shifts to keep the ship running smoothly. Ethan Cole spent most of his time on the bridge, monitoring systems and checking in with each department. Sarah Dawson plotted their course meticulously, ensuring they avoided any known Krylos patrol routes. Kevin Hayes kept a constant ear on communication channels, searching for signs of enemy activity. Despite the calm, tension lingered beneath the surface. Everyone knew what awaited them at their destination, a fight that could decide the fate of humanity. During meals, conversations often drifted toward home. Alex Rivera talked about the farm he dreamed of starting one day, describing fields of wheat swaying in the wind. Sarah mentioned her love for old novels, saying she hoped to write one herself after the mission. Even Kevin shared stories about playing guitar in a band before joining the military. These moments of connection helped ease the weight of their shared burden. One day, about halfway through the journey, something unusual appeared on the scanners. A derelict alien vessel drifted silently in the darkness, its hull scared and battered. It wasn't Krylos. It looked like nothing anyone had seen before. Curiosity outweighed caution, and Ethan decided to investigate. He gathered a small team, including Sarah, Alex, and Kevin, and boarded a shuttle to explore the wreckage. Inside, the air was cold and stale, the corridors dimly lit by emergency lights flickering faintly. The ship seemed abandoned, its walls lined with strange symbols etched into the metal. As they moved deeper, Sarah discovered a control room filled with damaged consoles. After some tinkering, she managed to power up a data log. The language was unfamiliar, but Kevin's translation software eventually deciphered parts of it. They were running from the Krylos, Kevin said, his voice low as he read aloud. This species, they called themselves the Viral. They tried to resist, but the Krylos wiped them out. These logs say the Krylos are planning to expand. They're building weapons to enslave other species across the galaxy. Ethan clenched his fists as anger surged within him. The scale of the Krylos' ambition was worse than they had imagined. But there was no time to dwell on it. The team collected what information they could, downloading files and taking photos of the symbols. Before leaving, Alex noticed a strange device in the corner of the room. It pulsed faintly, emitting a low hum. "We should take this too," he said. "Might be useful." Back on the Stellar Blade Maya Thompson examined the device, while Lucas Grant analyzed the downloaded data. The revelations only strengthened the crew's resolve. If the Krylos succeed, Lucas warned during a briefing, they won't stop at Earth. They'll keep expanding until there's nothing left. The encounter also brought challenges. Shortly after returning, the ship's engines began to malfunction. Sparks flew in the engine room as technicians scrambled to identify the problem. Ethan joined Mia, who worked tirelessly to repair the damage. "Looks like some kind of interference from that alien tech," she muttered, frustration evident in her voice. For 2 days, the fleet limped along at reduced speed, the delay testing everyone's patience. Tempers flared during this period. Alex argued with a technician over priorities, while Kevin struggled to maintain clear communication between ships. Ethan intervened when necessary, reminding the crew why they were here. "We've faced worse," he told them. "We'll fix this and keep moving forward." When the engines were finally repaired, a sense of relief swept through the fleet. The incident served as a reminder of how fragile their mission was and how much depended on teamwork. As the Stellar Blade resumed its course, Ethan stood on the bridge, staring at the endless expanse of stars. The encounter with the Viral ship had shaken him, but it also reinforced his determination. "They think we're weak," he said quietly to himself, gripping the railing. "But we're not. We'll show them exactly what humanity is made of." Behind him, Sarah approached, holding a tablet with updated navigation charts. "Still on track," she reported. Her presence was comforting, a reminder that they weren't alone in this fight. Together, they turned their attention back to the mission ahead, ready to face whatever came next. The fleet finally arrived at Proxima Centauri, and what they found was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Krylos stronghold loomed ahead, a massive orbital fortress surrounded by swarms of smaller ships, its surface bristling with weapons and glowing energy conduits. It was clear the aliens had been preparing for war, fortifying their position in anticipation of further conquest. Ethan Cole stood on the bridge of the Stellar Blade Asterisk, his jaw tightening as he studied the structure through the viewport. "They weren't expecting us," Sarah Dawson said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. She adjusted the navigation console, plotting a safe approach path. "Their patrols are scattered. If we move fast, we can catch them off guard." Ethan nodded, glancing at Alex Rivera, who stood nearby with his arms crossed. "We'll split the fleet," Ethan announced. "Smaller ships will act as decoys, drawing their attention, while the Stellar Blade Asterisk targets the command center. Once we disable that, the rest of the fleet can move in." Lucas Grant, the strategist, quickly mapped out the plan on a holographic display. "It's risky," he admitted, "but it could work. We'll need precision timing and coordination." He paused, looking directly at Ethan. "If anything goes wrong, we might not get a second chance." No one spoke for a moment, the weight of the decision hanging over them. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. "We didn't come this far to hesitate now. Let's do it." The attack began without warning. The smaller escort ships surged forward, firing bursts of plasma at the Krylos vessels. Chaos erupted as the aliens scrambled to respond, their forces splitting to deal with the unexpected threat. Meanwhile, the Stellar Blade Asterisk slipped past the initial line of defense, its stealth systems masking its presence. On the bridge, the crew worked with intense focus, every movement calculated and deliberate. Sarah guided the ship closer to the fortress, dodging incoming fire from automated turrets. Kevin Hayes monitored communications, relaying updates to the rest of the fleet. "They're falling for it," he reported, a hint of relief in his voice. "Most of their ships are chasing the decoys." But the Krylos weren't entirely unprepared. As the Stellar Blade Asterisk approached the command center, a squadron of enemy fighters broke away from the main group and headed straight for them. Alarms blared as red lights flashed across the bridge. "Here we go," Alex muttered, taking his position at the tactical console. He unleashed a barrage of missiles, destroying several fighters before they could get too close. The battle raged on, the crew working together like a well-oiled machine. Ethan barked orders, his calm demeanor steadying the team during moments of uncertainty. When a lucky shot from the Krylos grazed the hull, causing sparks to fly in the engine room, Maya Thompson's voice crackled over the intercom. "We've got damage, but nothing critical. Keep pushing." Despite the chaos, the plan was working. The decoy ships had successfully drawn most of the Krylos forces away, leaving the command center vulnerable. Ethan gave the order to fire the Stellar Blade's main cannons, their beams slicing through the fortress's outer defenses. Explosions rocked the structure, sending debris spiraling into space. For a brief moment, victory seemed within reach. Then everything changed. A massive weapon emerged from the fortress, its design unlike anything the humans had seen before. It pulsed with energy, emitting a low hum that vibrated through the Stellar Blade Asterisk. Before anyone could react, the weapon fired, a gravity disruptor capable of tearing apart entire fleets. One of the escort ships was caught in its pull, twisting violently before breaking apart in a fiery explosion. Panic spread across the bridge as the crew realized the danger. "We can't take another hit like that," Sarah shouted, her hands flying over the controls as she tried to maneuver the ship out of range. Ethan clenched his fists, his mind racing. They had come so far, only to face destruction at the last moment. But then an idea struck him, one desperate gamble that might save the fleet. Turning to Alex, he said, "Prepare a boarding party. We're going inside. Alex stared at him, stunned. You sure about this? We don't have a choice, Ethan replied firmly. If we can disable that weapon from the inside, the rest of the fleet stands a chance. Without hesitation, Alex assembled a small team. As they prepared to leave, Ethan looked at each member of the crew, his expression resolute. This isn't just about revenge anymore, he said. It's about survival, for all of us. With that, the boarding party launched toward the fortress, ready to face whatever horrors awaited them inside. The boarding party, led by Alex Rivera, approached the Krylos Command Center with grim determination. The fortress loomed ahead, its surface scarred from the Stellar Blade's earlier attack, but still bristling with defenses. As their shuttle docked in a damaged hangar bay, the team prepared for what lay inside. Ethan had entrusted Alex with the mission, knowing his combat skills and quick thinking would be crucial in such a high-stakes operation. Stay sharp, Alex whispered as they disembarked, plasma rifles at the ready. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burning metal. Emergency lights flickered along the walls, casting eerie shadows that danced across the corridors. The silence was unnerving. No alarms blared, no guards rushed to meet them. It felt like a trap, but there was no turning back now. Sarah Dawson's voice crackled over their comms from the Stellar Blade *. You've got 10 minutes before they send reinforcements. Move fast. Alex nodded, signaling the team forward. They moved cautiously, scanning every corner for threats. The first resistance came quickly. A group of Krylos soldiers emerged from a side corridor, their weapons glowing with energy. The humans fired without hesitation, the sharp crack of plasma bolts echoing through the narrow hallway. Alex took cover behind a fallen support beam, shouting orders as his team returned fire. Within moments, the Krylos were down, their bodies crumpling to the floor. We're clear, Alex said, motioning for the others to keep moving. Let's find that disruptor. The team pressed on, following the faint hum of energy emanating from deeper within the fortress. Along the way, they encountered more obstacles, locked doors, automated turrets, and strange alien constructs that seemed designed to slow intruders. Each challenge tested their resolve, but they pushed through, driven by the knowledge that failure meant the destruction of the fleet. Finally, they'd reached the heart of the fortress, a massive chamber housing the gravity disruptor. The weapon pulsed ominously, its core glowing with an otherworldly light. Wires and conduits snaked across the walls, feeding power into the device. In the center of the room stood a control panel, surrounded by Krylos engineers frantically trying to stabilize the system. Take them out, Alex ordered, raising his rifle. The team opened fire, taking down the engineers in a matter of seconds. Once the area was secure, Alex turned to Kevin Hayes, who had accompanied the team as their technical expert. Can you disable it? Kevin knelt beside the control panel, his fingers flying over the interface as he worked to decipher the alien technology. It's complicated, he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. If I cut the wrong wire, it could blow us all to pieces. Just do your best, Alex replied, keeping watch near the entrance. Outside, the sounds of battle grew louder. The Krylos reinforcements were closing in. Minutes ticked by agonizingly slowly. Bullets ricocheted off the walls as Krylos soldiers attempted to breach the chamber. Alex and his team held them off, their ammunition running dangerously low. Kevin, we're running out of time, Alex shouted, firing another burst to drive the enemy back. I'm almost there, Kevin responded, his voice strained. With one final adjustment, the disruptor's glow dimmed, and the humming ceased. The weapon powered down, its threat neutralized. We did it, Kevin exclaimed, relief washing over him. But their victory was short-lived. The remaining Krylos forces regrouped, launching a furious assault on the chamber. Alex knew they couldn't hold out much longer. Fall back, he ordered, leading the team toward the shuttle. They sprinted through the fortress, dodging enemy fire and collapsing sections of the structure. When they finally reached the hangar, the shuttle was waiting, engines already roaring to life. As they boarded, Alex glanced back at the fortress. Explosions rippled through its interior, destabilized by the disruptor's shutdown. "Good riddance," he muttered under his breath. Back on the asterisk, Stellar Blade asterisk, Ethan greeted them with a mixture of pride and relief. "You saved us," he said simply, clasping Alex's shoulder. The crew erupted into cheers, their spirits lifted by the successful mission. But Ethan's expression remained serious. He knew the fight wasn't over yet. The Krylos stronghold still stood, and the real battle was just beginning. With the gravity disruptor neutralized, the asterisk Stellar Blade asterisk and its fleet regrouped, ready to press their advantage. The Krylos stronghold was damaged, but still operational. Its defenses weakened, but not yet broken. Ethan Cole stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the massive structure ahead. "This is it," he said, his voice firm. "We finish this now." The plan was simple but risky. A concentrated assault on the fortress's central core, the heart of its power supply. If they could destroy it, the entire stronghold would collapse. Lucas Grant had mapped out the attack carefully, identifying weak points in the enemy's defenses. "We'll need everything we got," he warned during a quick briefing. "One shot, no room for error." Ethan gave the order, and the fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. Plasma cannons fired in unison, lighting up the darkness of space with bursts of energy. The Krylos responded fiercely, their remaining ships forming a protective barrier around the fortress. Explosions erupted as human and alien forces clashed, the battle raging across the void. Inside the asterisk, Stellar Blade asterisk, tension was palpable. Sarah Dawson guided the ship through the chaos, dodging enemy fire while keeping them on course. Her hands moved swiftly over the controls, her focus unwavering. "Almost there," she muttered, sweat beading on her brow. Kevin Hayes monitored communications, relaying updates from the other ships. "Escort ships are holding position," he reported. "They're drawing fire away from us." As they approached the fortress, Alex Rivera manned the tactical console, coordinating the ship's weapon systems. He unleashed a barrage of missiles, targeting the exposed sections of the stronghold's outer shell. One by one, the barriers fell, revealing the glowing core within. "That's our target," Alex shouted, adjusting the aim of the main cannon. But the Krylos weren't about to let them win so easily. A squadron of heavily armed fighters broke through the fleet's defenses, heading straight for the asterisk Stellar Blade asterisk. Alarms blared as the ship shuddered under repeated hits. Sparks flew in the engine room, and Ethan heard Maya Thompson's panicked voice over the intercom. "Shields are down to 20%. We can't take much more." "Hold steady," Ethan barked, gripping the railing as the ship rocked violently. Turning to Alex, he ordered, "Take out those fighters. Now." Alex didn't hesitate. He activated the ship's point defense turrets, sending streams of plasma tearing through the enemy squadron. One by one, the fighters exploded, clearing a path for the final assault. "Clear," Alex announced, slamming his fist on the console. With the way open, Ethan gave the command to fire the asterisk Stellar Blade's asterisk main cannon. A massive beam of energy surged forward, striking the fortress's core with devastating force. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the structure, causing entire sections to collapse. The Krylos stronghold began to crumble, its once imposing form disintegrating into a cloud of debris. On the bridge, cheers erupted as the crew realized they had done it. The fortress was destroyed, and the Krylos forces were in disarray. General Rachel Monroe's voice crackled over the comms. "Well done, everyone. You've made humanity proud." But Ethan's celebration was short-lived. As the dust settled, he noticed something unusual, a lone Krylos vessel fleeing the wreckage. It was small and fast, clearly designed for escape rather than combat. "That ship," Ethan said, pointing at the screen. "It's heading toward the edge of the system." Sarah zoomed in on the craft, her expression tightening. "Looks like someone important is trying to get away." Ethan didn't hesitate. "Follow it." The *Stellar Blade* gave chase, its engines roaring as it closed the gap. Inside the enemy ship, the Krylos leader, the same one who had orchestrated the betrayal, was attempting to flee. When the *Stellar Blade* caught up, Ethan ordered the ship to disable its engines. A single well-placed shot crippled the vessel, leaving it drifting helplessly. Ethan led a boarding party onto the enemy ship, his rifle raised. They found the Krylos leader in the cockpit, injured but defiant. Through a translator device, Ethan demanded answers. "Why did you do it?" he asked, his voice cold. "Why betray us?" The Krylos sneered, its words laced with arrogance. "You humans are weak. Your technology, your emotions, they make you inferior. We sought to erase you before you became a threat." Ethan stared at the creature, his anger simmering just below the surface. But instead of giving in to rage, he stepped back. "You underestimated us," he said quietly. "And that was your biggest mistake." With the leader captured, the mission was complete. The Krylos forces retreated, their plans in ruins. As the Stellar Blade turned back toward Earth, Ethan allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The cost had been high, but humanity had proven its strength. Revenge wasn't what mattered anymore. It was survival, resilience, and the hope of a brighter future. The return to Earth was met with an outpouring of emotion that none of the crew had anticipated. As the Stellar Blade and its fleet descended through the atmosphere, cities erupted in celebration. Streets were filled with cheering crowds, waving flags and holding banners that read "Heroes of Humanity" and "Never Forgotten." Fireworks lit up the night sky, their colors reflecting off the faces of millions who had gathered to welcome them home. Ethan Cole stood on the bridge, watching the scene unfold below. His heart swelled with pride, but it was tinged with sorrow. He thought of those they had lost, the families torn apart, the colonies destroyed, the lives sacrificed along the way. This victory didn't erase the pain, but it offered something else: hope. Hope that humanity could rebuild, grow stronger, and face whatever challenges lay ahead. General Rachel Monroe addressed the crowd from a stage set up near the landing site. Her voice rang out over the speakers, steady and resolute. "Today, we honor not only the brave men and women of this fleet, but all those who refused to give up, even when the odds seemed impossible. The Krylos underestimated us, and because of that, they failed. But let this be a lesson to us as well. We cannot afford to lower our guard again." Her words resonated deeply with Ethan and the crew. They had fought hard, but the battle against the Krylos had revealed how vulnerable humanity truly was. It wasn't enough to simply win. They needed to prepare for the future. During a private meeting later that evening, General Monroe announced plans to establish a galactic alliance, a coalition of species united by mutual protection and cooperation. "We can't face the stars alone," she said. "If we want peace, we'll need allies." Mia Thompson and Lucas Grant threw themselves into the project immediately, working on new technologies that could help humanity connect with other civilizations. Sarah Dawson plotted potential routes for exploration missions, eager to discover what else might exist beyond Earth's borders. Even Alex Rivera, who dreamed of returning to a quiet life on a farm, volunteered to train new recruits, knowing the fight wasn't truly over yet. For Ethan, the transition back to civilian life was harder than he expected. He visited his brother's grave one afternoon, kneeling silently as he traced the engraved letters of his name. "We did it," he whispered, his voice breaking slightly. "They paid for what they did. But I wish you were here to see it." As days turned into weeks, Ethan found solace in small moments, sharing meals with his crewmates, exchanging stories about the mission, and watching children play in parks without fear of attack. Humanity was healing, slowly but surely. The scars would remain, but so would the lessons learned. One evening, Ethan climbed to the roof of his apartment building. staring up at the stars. The vastness of space no longer felt intimidating. It felt full of possibility. He thought about the sacrifices made, the friendships forged, and the resilience of a species that refused to be extinguished. They thought we'd break, he murmured to himself, a faint smile crossing his lips. But we didn't. And we won't. Behind him, Sarah approached, holding 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to him and sat down beside him. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. "The future," Ethan replied. "It's not going to be easy, but I think we're ready for it." Sarah nodded, her gaze drifting upward. "Yeah, whatever comes next, we'll handle it. Together. Together." That single word carried more weight than any weapon or ship ever could. As they sat there under the endless expanse of stars, Ethan felt a sense of peace settle over him. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger. The road ahead would be uncertain, fraught with challenges and dangers. But if there was one thing Ethan knew for sure, it was this: humanity wouldn't falter again. Not now. Not ever.